Welcome to the January Donovan Show. And today I have a very special guest friend that I've come to know as of recent that has moved my heart in ways she probably doesn't understand because of her story. And I'm excited to kind of uncover the mercy of God in her life and also her mission to just, I think, empower and rebuild women. Lindsey, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I want to start by just sharing kind of a little bit about how would you describe Lindsey as a Patriot Barbie, but as a woman? Tell me how you would describe you.
Interesting. Okay. Outspoken,
Hmm.
bold, um, sensitive.
Mm.
This is like weird. You're like, how do I describe myself, but don't sound like I'm bragging?
Yeah. Not
um,
to just be
Jesus loving,
mm,
women empowerment, mom, wife.
fierce and yet so humble at the same time, humble enough to own your call. That's what I
It sounds better when you say it.
no, but it's the truth.
But I'm like, I am bold and courageous and
But you're so down to earth. I think that's what draw me is
authentic.
you think that's what you are, authentic and no pretension about a lot of things. You have amassed a great follower. And it's so funny, I just connected the dots because you're the cat lady.
I am the cat lady.
It's okay. So I remember seeing that video. I'm like, this is brilliant. And she's stunning. I did not connect it to recently because I saw it in your pinned post. So
Oh,
I
that's
want
funny.
us to kind of take it because your story has been really a story of awareness as a woman, but then understanding the patriot, defending America, but now coming to understand um, kind of like what's our purpose even as a
Right.
woman. So
Yeah.
take me back to just that cat lady and just give us a little bit of a background of what brought you to this conviction that you are going to become a patriot and defend America.
Well, so as far as the cat lady, very different story than like how I got started in this movement. I got started in the movement by opening my business against lockdowns in 2020,
Mm,
but that kind of pummeled me into what I now realize is like a political divide
yeah.
between freedom and tyranny. And so when I moved to Arizona from Oregon, from opening my business against lockdowns, I sort of was propelled into this movement and became kind of a voice for like conservative morals and traditional values, things like that. Totally accidentally. But in my community, I started speaking out against all kinds of um, what's the word for it? Like unfairities,
Justice.
different things. Yeah, like I started going down the rabbit hole of paying attention to politics, which really, in my opinion, is a spiritual battle, and speaking out against like the trans movement, people, men wanting to use the restroom with little girls and things like that. And so I was made aware of a man in my community who is 72 years old. He dresses like a woman and he sits on the board at a school district, and he is regularly a visitor at the elementary school. He uses the little girls' restrooms
You
at the
can.
school events. And someone said, can you go speak up at the school board and speak out against him? And it was actually around Halloween, ironically. So I had a cat costume laying next to my bed.
Of course.
And I thought, okay, him putting on, pearl earrings and a dress and lipstick does not make him a woman any more than if I put this cat costume on. Am I a cat, really? And so I wrote this very well thought out, unemotional, factual, biological speech, and wrote it to be 3 minutes long. And I went dressed as a cat to the school board meeting. It was the first school board meeting I've ever spoken at in my life. And I had no friends. I didn't go there with anyone. I didn't have a posse. I went dressed as a cat all by myself. It was very awkward,
So bold.
very awkward. But when I delivered the speech, I knew that it was like powerful. I knew that the message was powerful and it wasn't hateful or bigoted or anything like that. And actually, the speech went well, but it didn't go viral until about a month later.
Hmm.
And that's when it was on Fox News and went viral on all the conservative networks. And it actually was in 2022 that I did that. And it's actually still going viral to this day. So every 3 months or 6 months, a really big conservative will post about it. And then I went from being the salon owner in Oregon to the cat lady.
Well, take me to what happened to you after you were able to take that viral and take a message. Like, what did that do to Lindsay?
um, it really emboldened the idea that I feel like God was wanting to use my voice.
Mm,
And I had written a book, my book Targeted in 2021, and it's full of sort of the mistakes in my life that I feel like God allowed me to make and used so that I could speak with authority on certain topics that would empower women. And I wouldn't have authority on those topics if I hadn't been through some of the things I went through in my 20s. And as my platform grew, as that video went viral and another video went viral and another video, I realized that God was kind of blessing my platform, not to just be viral, but to use me to spread a message. And that message has really resonated with women. And
mm,
so I'm starting to kind of understand that originally you could call my brand like a superpowered patriot, a bold, fierce conservative voice. That is not as relevant. It's very relevant, but for me, it's not as relevant as how I feel God's shifting my direction toward being a woman who truly empowers other women by
mhm.
using my experiences to help minister to them and heal and things like that.
Wow. Well, in the women's school, we talk about our pain becomes a compass towards our contribution.
Mm.
That has become kind of probably true in your life. Well, can we go back a little bit to little Lindsay and just kind of talk about what was little Lindsay like growing up and in your family life, and then we can talk about in your 20s. But what was like growing up? Who were you as a little girl?
Oh, I was a fun little girl. I'm pretty much the same as I was now, right? God calls us to have childlike faith.
Mm,
I feel like the more I'm committed to doing God's will in my life, the more He's bringing me back to that childlike, almost personality where when you're young and innocent like that, you just love yourself. You love yourself,
yeah.
right? You're not insecure about things. You're just living your best life and you're goofy and you're fun. And that is how I was as a child.
Mm,
Very carefree, very outspoken, very friendly with everybody. My parents used to freak out because I would completely talk to strangers all the time. And very innocent, very secure with myself. I had a great childhood.
wow.
Uh, a mom and a dad, two brothers, family vacations, a well-rounded home, raised in church, with faith and conservative values. So everything in my childhood was amazing.
Mm.
And I feel like that has planted the seed for me to be, you know, raising my children the way that I feel I was raised in a very happy home. Um, so yeah, not much to say there except that I was just a fun, happy little girl and raised right.
Well, that's a really, that's a great, I think, foundation segment in this question. So you talk about your abortion story and also dancer, all the things that you did. Take me back to what led you to that decision, especially from coming from a conservative family where faith was taught. What was that decision and the influences of that decision?
It's really hard to pinpoint what in the world would cause a little girl that had a beautiful upbringing, was a Christian,
Hmm.
had a great family,
Yeah.
had a great life. I was amazing in school, got straight A's, could have gone to college, didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't go to college, hopping from job to job because I wasn't sure what I wanted my life to be. I don't know what in the world would lead me to suddenly what I call like falling off the deep end,
Yeah.
right? It went from I wouldn't even cuss in high school. I didn't use swear words. I didn't drink. I was insanely popular because I was so kind to people.
Mm,
All of a sudden, I just had this I want to try it all attitude, right? Like I had been missing out in life. And I certainly wasn't sheltered. My parents weren't extremely strict. I chose to be a good person and a good student. And yet, all of a sudden, I had this I want to live my life attitude. And it went from to start drinking to oh I'll try cocaine, I'll try it, why not, life is short, I'll try anything once. And that led to me deciding to be a stripper, which is like so radical to even for it to come out of my mouth. Like, wait, how did you go from that and within a year you're like dancing for a living? The only way I can really explain it would be that it was um, sort of a spiritual attack that got really out of control. Like I let my guard down. I wasn't living for the Lord. And this was something I did have to experience, though. I have no regrets. I did have to experience it because, again, it gives me authority to speak on these things. And I'm like the least likely girl to have fallen into that trap.
Yeah.
And it just snowballed from there, the bad decisions, because I just immersed myself in this toxic life of doing whatever I wanted and pleasing everybody but the Lord and myself. And, luckily for me, we have a God that will stay by your side through everything. And through all of that, I knew that I wasn't living the way it was pleasing to the Lord, but I could actually hear him like give me permission to do this, right? I kept saying, Lord, I know I'm not doing what you want. I know I'm totally disappointing you, but I could hear myself say, just let me do this and then I'll come back when I'm ready. And he was gracious enough to stand by me. And actually, there's a lot of things in that life that he saved me from that I didn't realize. I put myself in some situations where, honestly, I'm surprised that I'm not, a rape victim or dead or brutalized or kidnapped. Some of the situations I put myself in, but I can look back now and realize that he was by my side the whole time. And when it was time for that life to be done, it wasn't my decision. He literally was like, okay, you've had your fun and now you're done. And that's actually how I ended up quitting my meth addiction. Was I was at work doing drugs. I had been a meth addict for about 6 months. Was devastatingly skinny, probably near hospitalization. Lost my car, lost my apartment, like total drug addict. And all of a sudden, I heard him say, "You're done." And I
Mm.
was like, no, I'm not ready to be done yet. I'm still having fun. I don't know what having fun means when you're a drug addict, but I didn't want to do it. And he said, nope, you're done. And I took meth and flushed it down the sink and never did drugs again. Just quit cold turkey. So all because he said, this time in your life is over. And I can't do it by myself. It wasn't my decision. It was his decision to save me from that.
I mean, first I can't help but think about the prodigal son story of just, hey, you have the free will, go, you know.
Yeah.
But secondly, Lindsay, I think your humility is pretty profound here. Um, what I mean by that is that just the reality that you can own up your own failures, but also your failure in context of a relationship with God. Like, how many of us, even in our relationship with God, fail all day long and
Right.
hide behind this Christian faith amidst our failure? Like, it takes a whole lot of faith in God to be like, I was totally in the wrong place, but I know God loved me.
Well,
Like,
and this stuff is embarrassing too. But I feel like God is shielding me from recognizing how embarrassing it is to talk about these really shameful acts that I, was part of 20 years ago. Um, but I also feel like after I came out of all of that, I God saved me from all of it, restored me, redeemed me, and forgave me. And yet I went on about my life and I didn't share that with very many people. I
mm,
shared it when I could, but here I was, a hairstylist, woman after woman in my chair, 20 women a day. I was a very successful hairstylist, 20 women a day, probably. And I wasn't saying, hey, have I told you about, my past or what God did for me? And I realized that was like another slap in the face for him, is that he went and saved me from all of these things. And I was still not ministering to women using it. And so when everything happened to me in 2020, and I, was all over the news and I lost my livelihood and my story got rewritten, I realized this was yet again another chance that God was giving me to use my platform for him. And so this time I was not going to screw it up.
wow, wow. And how many women really can even relate with the abortion? Because that's what I think, that's what even for you, that story resonated with me. And I was 16 years old with wanting to break up with a guy who I didn't know how to break up. I was a good girl. Like that's, I think, the common story
Yeah.
is these good girls who lack the skill training that they need to actually make the most important choice of our life. And the next 10 years was HELL for me because of that choice. And 3 months later, I got pregnant again. At that point, I was a walking dead, but no, I didn't share with anyone, Lindsay. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. As a matter of fact, in my pro-life group, they were so against women that they would shun women who've had an abortion. And but they didn't know, they didn't even,
Yeah.
these are pro-life people. And I think they're just unaware because unless you've been through it,
Hmm.
you're not going to be able to say you have no idea the kind of
Yeah.
death a woman has to endure to
Yep.
actually make that choice.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was almost pro baby, which is the reason why I do what I do. I train women to have life. This is, because even the pro-life movement, yes, obviously it's a baby, but it was a woman who had no life that was incapable of choosing that baby. So
Right.
your family, how did they endure what they went through when you were going through this? What was it like for
Like in my 20s,
Yes.
I hid the drug addiction very, very well somehow the entire time. And
Wow.
I didn't tell them about it until I was on the other side. In fact, I don't even remember when or how I even chose to tell my family that I had done that. The abortion, I did not hide very well from my mom.
Mm,
She knew before I even told her the truth.
really?
Um,
Mm.
but I haven't had like the strength to talk about it so publicly until the last 4 years. So, and you could tell, obviously, it still hurts. I think that women need to hear that too. Just because God forgives you and you forgive yourself doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, right? There's still shame, there's still pain, um, in making that choice, and that's like the whole point of speaking out about it. Is it doesn't do any good that I endured that hurt for absolutely no reason. It does good when I allow people to see that the choice that I made 20 years ago still affects me to this day. And even more so because now I have children. And now I look at my family and I think, I killed one of my children 20 years ago. I have to live with that. And if that saves one woman from having an abortion, then it's totally worth the shame of talking about it. But my family, a lot of this actually they read in my book too. So my dad had read my book and said, I didn't even realize that. And I went, oh, well, surprise. This has been a personal journey,
Yeah, well,
thinking about it.
it's very shaming, and it takes a lot of, I think, courage and healing to speak
Mhm.
about it. But you're right. What good is it, if you
Yeah.
hide it? Um, what do you think are what's happening to women today right now that are almost promoting abortion as though it's like, so what? This whole idea that I've had an abortion and it's become a fad. Take me to that woman who's capable of almost seeing abortion like that. What are your thoughts about that?
Seeing it as like empowering and her
Yes.
right and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's sad because I think that she believes she's right, that she should have the choice to live her life the way she wants without the inconvenience of whatever it is, an accidental pregnancy, or, some of these women are using it as birth control, which I think
Yes.
is, I mean, absolutely vile. But I think it's our fault as a society that we've dehumanized people. Like some of these same women, Miley Cyrus, great example. She thinks that we should be a voice for the voiceless. And she's talking about dogs, putting down dogs. She thinks that it's so inhumane and so violent to put down dogs, but then she'll advocate for women having abortions, completely dehumanizing the idea that once there is another DNA strand inside your body, which is the moment of conception, that's another human life. And she thinks it's totally okay for women to do that. But God forbid we put down, a pit bull. And we as a society have come alongside that with this selfish propaganda that you should be able to do and say, you should be able to do in your life whatever you want to do, and no one has the right to tell you otherwise. And the ironic thing about it is that these girls do have a choice to do whatever they want. They can get on birth control. they can abstain, they can practice safe sex. They already have all of these choices. They are just brainwashed into thinking, well, if I don't want to do any of that, I don't have to, but I can do this, and society will come alongside me. And the internet doesn't help, right?
It doesn't help.
You've seen the mean, hateful comments that people can make behind a screen, but they would never say that to you in real life, because we look at other humans like, unless you're face to face with them and you have that energy and that spiritual connection, then you can just completely dehumanize a baby, someone on the other screen, on a social media, all those things.
Yeah, we don't even see people as human anymore in just the way we communicate. I mean, I think, in my opinion, we have a character crisis in our culture that has led us to where our country is, and just to a point where we could not have an America in the next 10
Mm-hmm.
years. So take me to your thoughts about that, because I was just sharing this story. I'm an immigrant, and I didn't see my parents for 5 years straight. My parents left at 7 years old, so I could come into this country legally. And even though I cried on a weekly basis as a child because I wish my parents were there and I would hear their voice on the phone, it was so expensive to call then, I kept the American dream in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I never resented them. So when I came here to the US, I was so grateful of what this country has to offer. And so when I see what's happening in our culture right now, I think, wow, you have no idea
Mm-hmm.
what true immigrants really have to come to fight for this country and what we defend. My mom, who didn't see me for 5 years, can you imagine leaving your 7-year-old, your 2-year-old, and 5-year-old for the American dream? That's what they had to do. And so are all these immigrants. Our gratitude is warranted, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so take me on your thoughts are, because what I see so much right now is like, Jane, don't get political. I'm like, this isn't political, this is spiritual. And
Yeah.
I get up the backlash and I tell women, so do we just allow our God-given freedom to be tarnished because we don't want to get political? So
Right.
take me on what you think in that narrative. Why do women need to wake up? Why should we be involved in our country? And what do you see the vision is for America?
Yeah. If we don't really truly understand that when you have a value system, the morality system, maybe there's one political party that aligns with that. Fine. Then guess what? Bad news. You have to align with that political party. If you believe that abortion is murder, if you believe that life begins at conception, you cannot try to pretend that one side doesn't believe that and believes the opposite without getting political, right? And so it shouldn't be about politics or any certain politician, but you should be voting for your values. And if your values line up with a certain political party, then unfortunately you have to say this is why. And that is not controversial, or at least it shouldn't be. It should be, yeah, I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. And this is what my faith tells me to believe. So yes, I'm voting for this specific politician because it aligns with my faith values, not my politics. But if we don't get in the fight, then you cannot be mad when the fight comes to your door and you were like, I didn't want to do politics. And that is, I have authority to speak there too, because prior to 2020, I didn't do politics. Still would like to say I don't. It's not true, obviously. But I ignored politics completely. And then it came to my door and it shut down all my businesses and I couldn't provide for my family. So guess what? I pay attention to politics now. Same with, the abortion movement. Like if I'm going to speak out against it, I sure as heck can't be endorsing a president that thinks, you know, it's a woman's choice, because I don't believe that. My faith tells me not to believe that.
Yeah.
So for women that are scared to get in the fight, you're gonna face a very cruel and harsh reality eventually, that the problems of America are now your problems because you didn't want to get involved because you were too scared of being political. And that is where I'm at now, where I take full responsibility that the issues that I now have to fight are my fault 4 years ago because I didn't want to be involved.
Yeah. And I feel like women today are overwhelmed and
Mm-hmm.
exhausted that they don't have the capacity to even think about the cultural fight or the political fight. And that's what, to me, I said, well, we don't have a choice. If you're too
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed, then what's going to happen when we wake up one day, which is where we truly are. And I think that this next 4 months and 6 months is going to determine a lot of us waking up to defend our country, to defend our life. And so that's what my goal here is, to wake women up to say, listen, we don't have a choice, but to be in the fight. Take me to,
Well, I
so
want to add this too. It's if your audience is mostly women, mostly moms, for me, like, sure, I love America. It's the land of the free, right? It's the greatest country in the world. But this fight is not even about just saving America. It's about saving your own children. Every mom that you've ever met would say, I'll take a bullet for my kid. And yet these same moms will drive their kids to school and put them in masks all day. They don't believe, if you believe it's right, fine, then do it. But they also would say, I don't believe this is right, yet I'm going to do it anyway. These same moms will not go speak at school boards when they find that there's porn in the children's books in the library. And if you can say, I would take a bullet for my kid, I'm going, you take a bullet, but you can't even go protest masks. You can't pull your kid out of public school and say, we're not tolerating this crap. That kind of bravery needs to be shown at the tiniest of fights if you really believe that you're going to do anything to save your children. And this culture is after our children. The books, TV shows, the propaganda, the Pride Month being shoved down their throats. There is no way that your kids are safe in this culture right now. And so if you're going to say, I'd take a bullet from them, then you better be willing to fight all of those fights, because no one is shooting at your kid with a bullet, but they are coming for their souls and their hearts. So that's where you do have to step in.
well, that is so spot on. And a lot of times I have women that says you better choose Jesus or the culture. I'm like, oh no, we need Jesus in the culture.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
not, it's not one or the other. And so, and a lot of times, I was interviewing Hannah Faulkner. Do you know who she is? Hannah Faulkner. She's a 16-year-old. She's speaking at um Make America Great Again, or what is it, with General Flynn. She's 16 years old.
Okay. No.
Incredible. And I told her, I was like, what do you say, Hannah, to these mothers who say, I don't want to watch the news because I don't want to get, I don't want it to rattle me. She's like, well, that's a coward move. 16-year-old. She's like, wouldn't you watch the news and say, I need to fight better? And I thought, we have a courage crisis in our culture. That's what you're modeling for me, Lindsey. That's what Hannah did. And that's my hope here, is that women wake up and find the
Mhm.
courage that is our Lord's courage in the
Yeah.
lion's den, and say, what do we need to do? And courage beats courage. I think even me watching you as I journey this, because I thought, I don't want to get controversial. Like that was my whole thing. The problem is
Yeah.
that when we had a judge who couldn't define what a woman is, I was forced into controversy
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
now we had men looking at the women's school.
Right. Oh
And
my gosh, you did?
yes. And
They're like, there's a lawsuit
yeah,
coming
yes,
because you're not being
literally.
inclusive. Oh
That's
my word.
and so we have a women's school coach, and then do we have a women's school coach that's coaching men? And I was thinking, I was like,
No, my gosh.
but Lindsay,
And
that's
how
how
does a
real it
man speak
was.
on authority to women?
But
I've been there, honey. No, you've never started a period. You've never grown breasts. Like, come on. That's
it's
insane.
it's yes, but that's how 2020, 2021, that was battle. And we had coaches who are like, what do I do, January? Somebody just tried to sue me because one of our coaches, who's a women's school coach, men, I mean, they would taunt you.
Yeah.
I mean, so I literally I said, Lord, like, I guess this is the end of woman. But it wasn't, because I think it was the courage of the brave souls who led. And I thought, I can do this too. Like when I look at you and be like, no, I can defend. It was a slow walk for me because once again,
Yeah.
the battle had to come into my doorstep. It had to come into our business that could be
Yeah.
shut down because I was unwilling to say, no, this is what a
Mhm.
woman is. And so I think that's what I hope women, and say, listen, the battle is not outside your home. It's in your home. It's in your bathroom, for crying out loud. Like it's not. And so, um, I want you to talk to me about this whatever podcast. And I want to ask
Oh my gosh.
finally, I want to give them a context a little bit. And then I want them to share with you where, what you're doing with the Patriot Barbie, your clothing line, because I just think that we need to support women who are
Yes.
doing what is good and what's right. So, but take me there, whatever podcast. So you go on this
Okay.
whatever podcast.
I
And
go
this
on
is,
this podcast.
yeah, tell us, give us a little bit of background.
A lot of conservative media personalities have gone on this podcast. The difference is that the host, Brian Atlas, was aware of who they were, what they stood for, and he was on his best behavior, because certain people like Charlie Kirk, Lila Rose, would not tolerate the behavior that I witnessed. He did not do his research. I think they were scattered for this show. There was a bunch of random women. I was tossed in. And immediately I was kind of weirded out because I wasn't sat next to him as like the conservative
Yeah,
media
I
personality.
noticed that.
And I was put around the table kind of with like the OnlyFans girls. And rarely was I given an opportunity to even speak up on my beliefs. So I don't think he had any idea who Kendall and I were. I'm thankful for that, because the way that he treated us, it needs to be exposed, because I don't want to be sitting on his side of the table watching him berate and belittle and dehumanize and degrade women, and me being like, yeah, that's right. I was in on that. I am glad that I was treated as they were treated,
Mm.
because they don't deserve it. I don't deserve it any less, because I'm a mom and a wife of three. Sure, is what they're doing degrading to themselves? Yeah. But we need to come alongside them and minister to them and support them and pull them out of what is obviously like a trauma. But these men literally berate and degrade them for money. Like, that is the whole point of the show. Men can pay $200 to make a comment on this YouTube live, and the comment will be degrading whoever the girls are around the table. And I got lumped into that, which was horrific and also epic, because I'm not afraid of a challenge. This guy has 4.36 million subscribers. I have suffered a spiritual war because they've come after my character for exposing them. But we are
Really?
dropping non. Oh yes, there's been 4 YouTube videos making fun of me and my tattoos and my nose ring and my veneers. I mean, they can't find a character flaw to make fun of me about, but they're finding other ways to make fun of me. They've made 4 YouTube videos just attacking my character, but that's okay, because my identity is not in them, and literally I don't care about their opinion.
Makes me angry, but yes, go ahead.
But no one else has come out and spoken out about the way these guys treat women, and Kendall and I are. And I feel like it just fell in line with the whole women empowerment movement, which is that I went on this show and I witnessed girls who need help and are already traumatized and living lives in like abuse and pain,
Mhm.
coming on here and allowing themselves to be degraded for what? Publicity, clout, to put their OnlyFans link or their name in the YouTube description, which Brian deletes halfway through the show anyway. And so he's making all this money degrading these women. They think they're getting clout and attention. Well, that is a festering, like an even more toxic culture for these women. So even though it sucked really bad and it led to a spiritual war for like a week, attack on my home and my family and my character, the goal is to expose them so that they're not given more of a platform to do this to women.
Well, honestly, prior to that, Lindsay, I follow them
Mm-hmm.
and did not even raise the question because there were conservative people that I
Yep.
obviously revere there. And with the moment you actually exposed it, I was like, oh, I can totally see it.
Yep.
And it took your fierceness, but also your boldness to just call it the way it is. I mean, I realized, wow, why are we celebrating this man? But honestly, I felt like I was sort of a victim to it. I didn't think anything of it. So
Yeah.
I really applaud you saying, "Oh, wait a minute. Like, what are they? It's almost like the what is it called? The in Rome where they have the oh my gosh, the arena. When they have
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
gladiator fight, but it's against its
Yeah.
own women. It's like
Yep.
literally, it's just tarnishing
Yeah.
women. And
And
so
they're like, they're the weak women too. They're the weak women.
you're
They're the
right.
women who are obviously damaged and obviously destroyed by our culture's beliefs and society's, indoctrination. So not just any woman, like women who would subject themselves to this because they're so damaged.
And taking advantage of those wounded women. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
really
Profiting off of them.
that's even so I commend you, and I don't know what to do, but I signed me up to be able to expose these kind of.
Just share the reels. I don't tag them
I
because I'm
am.
trying not to get
I'm
sued,
going to
but
share the reels. Yeah. And that's because that's what I think is necessary is to awaken people up to their truths. So, okay. So as we wrap up, cast me a vision and what you feel like your role is or where God is leading you, um, in, in empowering, but also really pivoting your call, especially
yeah.
because what you've been through for women for this year and for generations, honestly.
Mhm. Well, like I said, I'm really starting to kind of go away from the political arena and more into like the women empowerment. My following has shifted drastically. It's gone from 50-50 men and women to 65% women. So my message resonates with women a lot. So this year, like this month, currently I'm starting a nonprofit called Galatians Girl.
Mm.
And the goal is to fundraise to be able to come alongside women who need like abortion counseling, counseling from abusive relationships, help women escape abusive relationships, um, help women that have been in like the dancing or the OnlyFans culture to kind of get back up on their feet and find their true calling. Pretty much anything women empowerment, like come alongside women who are choosing life instead of abortion and give them the opportunity to raise their child. So I feel like that is going to be a huge opportunity for me to really use those funds in the right way. And then I have my businesses, I have my partnerships for the parallel economy. A Pretty Little Patriot is the fashion brand that I own. I have a merch store called the Patriot Barbie Shop that sells, kind of Jesus and patriotic clothing. Partnerships with like Launchcart. I just signed a partnership with Launchcart. It's like the conservative Shopify. So
Mm.
Shopify has deplatformed people before, and Launchcart is the patriotic Christian-based version
Wow.
of who want to start online stores. Yeah. And payment processing. Patriot Ventures is a payment processing company that will not deplatform conservative or Christian businesses, won't freeze their funds, things like that. So I honestly, when people say, "What's next for you?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing what God's telling me to do. And this year, I'm getting ready to announce a new network that's coming out that's going to feature people who have strong voices and strong stories that particularly align with my values. So there's a lot going on. There's a whole parallel economy being built, and I think that if we can get more people supporting that, we wouldn't have to worry about where Starbucks is donating their money. We wouldn't have to worry about Planned Parenthood. We could defund all of them if we actually all did shop and vote with our dollars. And so I'm a huge advocate for that as well.
Well, thank you, because I think ultimately that's where it counts. And so we're going to place all those links. And honestly, if you're not part of the solution, then you are part of the problem if we're supporting this. And it's not easy. When I say that to you, Amazon's really easy. Like it's here in your app, and so it's walking through those inconvenience. But I salute you for being a voice and being an advocate and saying we need a parallel economy. As a matter of fact,
Yeah,
even the social media, when we were advertising for women and the definition of women, you get deplatformed because you're defining what a woman is. I mean, it's insane. Like we couldn't put ads on just the dignity of womanhood. Pretty
it's
basic.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we are. And so um give us a message about Jesus as last to wrap us up for this podcast.
Give
How does
us a
Jesus?
message about
Yes.
Jesus.
What is
He
Jesus to you? Who is Jesus to you, Lindsey, in your daily life?
he is my bro. He is my best friend. People have asked me things like, "Well, how do you pray?" And I'm like, I talk to him like he's my best friend because that's exactly who he is. He already knows what you're thinking. He already knows all of your character flaws, all your sins, all your joys, the desires of your heart. So you don't need to put on a preface for Jesus. He wants you exactly as you are. And if nothing else, my story should be that no matter how far you've fallen, no matter what you've done, no matter how shameful, he already knows. You repent, you ask for forgiveness. He's already forgiven you. And if you can use those pains and transgressions for his glory, he will bless that. He'll bless your movement. So nothing is in vain. He has a plan for everything. Even though we choose to go do these horrible things, he always makes them right. So you use them for his good.
Oh, well, you're a walking mercy. I always say I'm a walking mercy. God can do so many good for a woman who's willing to say yes to him. So thank you for your story, Lindsey. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your yes. And thank you for being fiery out there and
My pleasure.
no, but that's what we need. This is a time of Esther for such a time as this. And I always think of Esther. What did she say? Those who will not speak up will perish. And that is
Perish.
what you're doing, speaking up against our country, speaking up against women, and speaking up against our family and really our faith. So thank you. I'm just grateful to be able to have our audience hear your heart and hear Jesus through you. So thank you all.
And
To the next podcast. If you like this practical life training in the Women's School, click subscribe so you can get access to more of our practical life training. Also, comment below and let us know what you think so we can hear from you. Don't forget to like this video and share it, because our vision here in the Women's School is to give you practical life training to help you become who you were created to be for such a time as this.